The film begins in a dense forest in Africa. Next, we meet two rangers, Winston and his partner Gabi, who are on a surveillance mission. They travel in a small boat along the river, surrounded by the dense forest. Gabi operates a drone that flies over the area, recording images, when suddenly the equipment is hit by an unknown boy and the transmission drops. Gabi insists on going into the woods to retrieve the device, even with Winston saying that it is not safe to stray from the river and enter the forest, because people disappear there. But Gabi says they cannot leave their trash in the forest, which convinces Winston. Gabi goes alone into the woods while Winston stays in the boat. Meanwhile, we see the same boy from before, but now he is accompanied and carrying the ranger's drone. As Gabi goes deeper into the forest, the two men smear mud on a camera, and Gabi notices that a piece of the drone has disappeared, finding it strange not to find it there, as she was sure it had been on site. She tries to use her cell phone, but there is no signal, while the men prepare some traps. Winston goes to check why he cannot see anything on the camera and discovers it has been covered, which frightens him. The two men seem to know that secret-filled forest intimately. They take a mushroom and release a powder that spreads through the woods. Gabi is now alone and lost. She tries to contact Winston, but the man is no longer in the boat. As she looks at the map to orient herself, something seems to be watching her, and the woman begins to feel the hostility of that place. When she looks again at that thing, the creature has already disappeared. Gabi begins to hear several voices coming from the forest and decides it is best to leave that place, not realizing she is heading toward the men's trap. As she walks, she does not notice the rope on the ground and ends up triggering the trap, which pierces her foot, and the woman screams in pain. Gabi gets up and uses the radio to call Winston for help. While doing so, something runs past her, leaving her no choice but to try to get out of there. The woman manages to remove the piece of wood from her foot and continues walking until she finds a strong red light emanating from the forest. Winston now searches for his friend from the boat, and the red light increases so much that day turns into night. Winston decides to get off the boat and search for her in the forest. We see that Gabi is face to face with that red light. For a moment, she seems hypnotized. Winston calls for his friend, but suddenly hears the same strange voice that echoes through the forest, and, overcome with fear, loses his balance and falls into the swamp waters. The voices continue, and, for a brief moment, Winston sees something behind a tree, and, thinking it is Gabi, goes after it. But we see that the woman has ended up finding the men's cabin. She approaches and knocks on the door, asking if there is anyone. With no answer, she decides to enter the house and finds many things. The injured woman decides to use the place to rest and tend to her wounds. Winston finally manages to get out of the swamp waters, but the creature is already nearby and begins to emit sounds that frighten him, making him run in terror. Gabi is sleeping in the cabin and is having a nightmare, where she vomits something, which leaves the woman intrigued. She soon wakes up and is surprised by the two men. The man quickly approaches Gabi and threatens her with a knife to her neck, asking who sent her. Gabi explains she was only there to retrieve her drone and ended up falling into a trap. The man looks at the woman's foot and says she ruined their trap. Back with Winston, the man is terrified, hiding behind a tree, and tries to convince himself that this is not real. But to the man's bad luck, something begins to approach, and, when he turns to check, he finds a humanoid creature on 4 legs and, without thinking twice, begins to run. In the cabin, the men decide to take care of Gabi, and she, curious to know who they are, asks their names. The man introduces himself as Berend and his son, Stefan. He asks if she came from the city, but Gabi answers she is at the ranger station. Berend questions how many rangers there are now, and she says there are only 2. Later, while preparing dinner, Gabi hears that strange noise again and asks the man what it could be. He replies that it's just an old cow. During dinner, father and son say a somewhat strange prayer, and Gabi does not want to eat the food. Sarcastically, Berend tells her to enjoy their meal. We see that Winston is still running from the creature that pursues him ferociously. He ends up snagging on a branch, which leaves him in despair and causes him to fall. The monstrosity is right in front of him and approaches quickly. Winston tries to pull out his knife, but realizes he has lost the weapon and decides to run again, while the humanoid creature emits a terrifying scream. Back at the cabin, everyone prepares to sleep, but Gabi says she saw someone outside who did not look human, and the two seem to know what it is, pausing to listen. Winston is hidden again and doesn't even notice when mushroom roots slowly approach until he is attacked. Back to the trio, Barend prepares a homemade remedy to treat Gabi's wound. The woman is still sleeping, and he lets his son take care of the rest. The boy had never seen a woman before and begins to observe her with curiosity, but does nothing more than that. Again, Gabi has a strange dream. Some plants coming out of her body. She soon wakes up frightened, but she is alone in the cabin since father and son went out hunting. Gabi tries to contact Winston. He answers saying his name, and she asks where he is, but the man seems confused, saying strange things, which makes Gabi even more worried. While Gabi makes a fire to warm herself, Barend hunts with his son and manages to kill a wild boar. As he approaches the prey, he smears some of the animal's blood on his son and asks Mother Nature forgiveness for the act. As they carry out their strange rituals, they smell smoke, and Gabi, who is in the cabin, ends up setting fire to a small area to be located. Barend enters the cabin angrily and says that there are to be no fires during the day, and Gabi replies that it was so her colleague could find her by the smoke. Barend says he would have already found him because the two have radios to communicate. She tells the man she is worried about her friend because she heard strange noises earlier, but he dismisses it and says he will take her back later. During the night, Barend continues treating Gabi's wound while she tries to communicate with Winston, but gets no response. Gabi gives up on contacting him and starts talking to Barend, saying his son should be studying and not living in the jungle. Barend answers that he is learning what is necessary. Gabi also asks where his mother is, and the man replies that he lost his wife to bone cancer, and that it has been 13 years. Gabi says she is sorry for the loss, but he comments that it's just life, and she asks what he did before ending up there. He says he was a scientist and phytopathologist, and that after Lily left, everything changed. His wife was a chemical engineer. Stefan gives a necklace to Gabi, and Barend says it's a gift so she will remember them. The woman thanks him, but finds all of this very strange. We now see Winston's lifeless body, covered by some mushrooms and plants, just like in the dream Gabi had. In the cabin, Gabi has that same dream again, only now the plant starts to enter her mouth. Barend quickly wakes her up, but covers her mouth, because the entity is prowling around the cabin. Stefan grabs his bow while the being tries to enter. Barend asks if Gabi can stay quiet, and she replies that she can. The entity is trying to get in at all costs. Barend warns that, if they manage to enter, she must remain still, because these entities are blind. She begins to apply a liquid over her body, while father and son prepare to face the monster, and Gabi is almost attacked, but Barend acts quickly and manages to protect her. One of the humanoid entities manages to enter the cabin, but Stefan shoots it, causing it to retreat. The peace is short-lived, as another appears and tries to attack Barend. As he said before, they just have to remain still, because these entities are blind. They make light movements, but Gabi ends up making noise, drawing the entity's attention. Stefan comes to help, attacking several times. Father and son fight together until they manage to drive the entity out, and Barend quickly closes the door. Seeing that Gabi is covered in the being's blood, Stefan quickly removes his clothes, leaving the woman puzzled. Barend asks her to trust them, and Stefan begins to clean Gabi's blood. Barend realizes he was injured, and Gabi feels unwell and faints. Later, Barend explains that those beings are humanoid fungi, that they prefer humans and feed on everything of the body. Even with the explanation, Gabi asks what madness he is talking about, and Barend says that basically it is the largest organism on the planet that lives beneath them. He explains that these entities are older than all of human history and are ready to spread. Gabi asks if this is the god he mentioned earlier, but Barend comments that humans believe in worse things, and that he is just another. Gabi asks if Stefan thinks like his father, but the boy replies, "It's time to sleep." The woman has another dream, where she is in the middle of the forest. Someone appears behind her and touches her, but soon the fungus emerges on her neck, leaving her in shock, and she wakes up. Stefan is by her side and calls her beautiful. She reacts well and shows him her phone, taking a photo of the two of them and showing other photos of her life. Stefan is fascinated, but soon his father appears, calling Gabi a monster and asking her to leave the house. Stefan and Barend decide to go somewhere else, while Gabi gathers the remains of her cell phone that Barend had broken and finds a book with some notes. Meanwhile, Berend makes an offering to his god, kneeling before a tree and looking inside, where several fungi begin to grow. He leaves some blood inside the tree, removes a fungus, and begins to eat it, gives another to his son, and then looks at his wound, showing concern. Berend returns home and finds Gabi reading his things. He also notices that she was infected, which worries the woman, but he asks her to leave. Stefan seems to disagree with his father's decisions, but says nothing. Soon knocks are heard, so Berend decides to check. As soon as his father leaves, Stefan looks for something to try to help Gabi, even licking the fungi on her arm and then hugging her. Gabi comforts the boy, saying she will always visit him. Berend returns to tell her that it's time to go, and Gabi asks to take Stefan with her, but the father just laughs. As they walk, Gabi asks the man how they are not infected with that thing living under them. He replies that they are, and they continue walking until Gabi finds Winston's flashlight. She heads toward the humanoid fungi dwelling, and Berend warns that it is dangerous, but Gabi ignores him. Reluctantly, Berend decides to follow her. Gabi comes across a security camera and removes the memory card. They walk a little further and find Winston's body, covered in several fungi. Upon touching her friend's body, Gabi discovers he is still alive. Winston asks to be killed, but Gabi refuses, saying she can take him to the hospital. Berend prepares to act, but Gabi stops him. She asks if there is any way to help him, but Berend only hands an arrow to Winston, who soon chooses to die. Gabi's loud crying attracts more humanoid entities, and Berend asks her to hurry to get out of there. The two quickly return to the cabin and wake Stefan, who is happy that Gabi did not leave. Berend closes all the cabin entrances because more entities are approaching. During the night, Gabi has another dream and wakes up realizing the fungi are spreading. She tells Berend she knows he has some medicine to contain it, but he ignores her and leaves the place. Gabi asks Stefan where the father went, and the boy answers that he went to pray. Taking advantage of Berend's absence, she asks about the boy's mother, and he says he has few memories of her, but that she lives in the forest now, which Gabi does not immediately understand. The boy says he will show her, while Berend, praying, hears noises from the humanoid fungi and seems shocked. We see the same red light in the background. Gabi tries to convince Stefan to go with her, saying he could also become a ranger, and tries several ways to take him, even saying there are several women for him. But Stefan recalls that his father said everyone will die soon. Shortly after, the man enters the cabin with a pale face and looks terrified. The next day, Berend carries out his usual ritual with his son, giving another mushroom, and Gabi's infection begins to spread faster. Berend and Stefan return home, and Berend notices the boy is very eager to return. When Stefan arrives home, he kisses Gabi, but it was only to give her the mushroom his father had given him. Berend comments nothing and asks if she is ready to return to her life, but seeing that the remedy is working, she says she wants to stay. Berend says nothing and simply leaves. Stefan is delighted with the news and decides to teach Gabi how to use the bow. He decides to take her to the sacred tree for them, the same one from the dream she had. Stefan and Gabi begin to distract Berend while she assembles her phone with the parts she gathered. Gabi manages to see the photos she took of him and the entities, and during the conversation, Berend ends up getting excited with her. Gabi says she wants to know this religion Berend is so proud of, but this irritates him even more. He changes his tone during the conversation, but decides to show the woman. Then he and his son make the preparations. Stefan applies red paint to Gabi's face, and Berend blows a magic powder on her face. Gabi quickly finds herself in another dimension, witnessing many things at once. The woman wakes completely naked in a swamp, and soon sees a man emerging from the waters. The man reveals himself to be Stefan, who is also naked, and the two have a libidinous encounter. While Gabi enjoys herself, she again wakes up in the sacred tree and has many bad visions at once, but this time wakes up in the real world. She asks Berend where she had been, and he says she had been in the Temple of Dreams, adding that 4 hours had passed since she went to the dream world. The woman comments that it feels like months have passed, and Berend asks what she told him, but Gabi is left not understanding anything. She looks at Stefan and realizes that it was also a dream, and Berend asks the same question he asked in the dream, wanting to know what that thing wants. We discover that the monster wants to reap the life of Berend's son, but the man does not have the courage to do it to his own son. Gabi and Stefan are more intimate than ever, exchanging laughs while Berend remains thoughtful about what to do. During the night, Berend decides to go out to pray, and Gabi and Stefan try to flee, but end up encountering Berend on the path. Stefan's father says he does not understand why his son wants to leave, because he always protected him. Gabi pulls a knife to try to stop the man's advance, but he continues walking. Berend says she will take Stefan to live a life of slavery in the city, but Gabi retorts that he is just a madman. She says she managed to get Berend's book and that she will expose him to the world. But when they are about to leave, Berend tells his son there is nothing for him to discover in that world. Berend claims that if Stefan abandons him now, his mother's sacrifice will have been in vain, but Gabi says it was he who killed his wife. Berend replies that she chose to die there and reminds the son of their great journey, the pilgrimage they made together. The boy gives up on fleeing with Gabi and returns to his father. Gabi decides to leave while the two stay in the cabin, but in the middle of the way she senses something and decides to return to watch them from a distance. Stefan asks where they are going, and Berend replies they will make a sacrifice, seeming shaken by having to do so. Gabi goes to the cabin and takes a bow, while father and son follow the path to the sacred tree. Stefan still does not understand, because he does not see the sacrifice with them, but his father just says that their God will provide, so they continue on the path. Gabi, trying to save Stefan, finds a humanoid fungus and hides behind a tree. Back to Berend, he explains to his son that God chose him, and the preparations begin. Berend strikes his son in the back, while Gabi tries to flee from the humanoids and manages to hit one. The boy, now aware of his father's plans, tries to fight his destiny, but the tree begins to grab him, while Berend prepares to kill him. When he is about to do so, Gabi appears to help, but is quickly restrained by the branches, becoming trapped. Fortunately, she manages to free herself. She shoots an arrow at Berend, which has little effect, and he quickly attacks. Stefan runs to help her, but Gabi is knocked unconscious and lies on the ground, while a humanoid fungus approaches her. They come face to face, but Stefan runs to help his beloved. While he fights the monster, Berend drags Gabi by the hair to the tree. Stefan manages to finish the creature, and when Berend is about to kill Gabi, Stefan saves her in time and stabs his father in the back. Berend falls to the ground and tries to manipulate his son, saying it was only a test, but Gabi, seeing that a creature is nearby, asks them to flee and leave Berend to die. The two return to the cabin, and while Gabi takes a shower, she has another vision. The organism is trying to make contact with her, but she wakes up. She takes Berend's book and begins to read. Meanwhile, Berend fights not to become a humanoid fungus and tries everything for the tree to give him another chance, but it is useless, and he ends up being infected again, without the mushrooms to protect him. Gabi, already infected, is now slowly dying. Without the mushrooms to protect her, she asks Stefan to go see the world. Days later, we see that the infection has worsened. She is almost transformed into a humanoid fungus and asks Stefan to eliminate her, which he does. Stefan is now alone when the organism shows itself more alive than ever, and he decides to follow his beloved's advice and leave that cursed forest. He is now in the big city, living a new life, still trying to get used to all those novelties, but living safely, away from all that madness. However, he does not realize, but everything he touches becomes contaminated.